Can you guys hear me? Cool. So again, yes, thank you, Drew, and ETC for having me here. It's very awesome to be part of this like alumni 20 years. So I want to thank, before I start, the ETC and everyone for hosting us. I think it's really cool to bring alumni back to talk to all of you. So you should definitely come to my talk and to all the other alumni. So now that I said that, hi everyone, I'm Maria. I graduated 5 years ago, and I'm currently at MagicLeap, but we'll get that. But before I jump into this, so who am I, right? Like, why am I here? Why I came into ETC? So before I came into ETC, I did my undergrad in computer science and electronic arts. I decided to do that because originally I was like, I really want to do special effects. I really want to work for like a Pixar. I really want to work something creating art, but I'm not good at painting. I'm not good at doing like old school art. But I was really good at math, and I really enjoyed math. So I was like, if I combine computer science and art, I can somehow create that. And when I finished undergrad, I was like, this is really cool. I did a lot of projects in the computer science department. I did a lot of projects in the electronic arts department. But I need a place to go where I can kind of combine these two. Where can I go to like merge them? There has to be a place. After doing some research with my professors, we came across ETC, and I was like, great. It sounds like CMU is a great school, and it looks like it's a place where I can come, bring both of my skills, meet other people with similar interests, meet people that have completely different interests, and create something. So that's basically why I ended up at ETC. Basically, I wanted to combine art and science, like I just said. When I came to ETC, I didn't know what to expect, right? I don't know, but like when I came here 5 years ago, when I applied, before that, right, like 7 years ago, I wasn't sure what I was getting into. I have never used Unity. All my like creative stuff was in pure OpenGL. I got here, I was like, oh yeah, there's this game engine, there's this. There's a lot of people that are like, oh no, well, I'm actually like a filmmaker, I'm actually a producer, I'm a business person. Okay, so we all together are gonna kind of do something with art and science. Cool, I'm excited. And then what happens? You come to, yes, there's many cool courses in the first semester, but I'm only gonna talk about BBW. Why? Because it's one of the courses that we're all put out of our comfort zone every day. Like when you go to the film class, you get your team, and it's the entire team, the entire semester, at least when I was there. And you learn the concepts of film, and then you start building relationship with your team, and you start learning, and it's a progressive learning curve. When you're in improv, you immediately know, like, okay, I'm just gonna make a fool of myself all the time, so it's okay. But when you get to BBW, you're like, okay, this is gonna change. Every single project is just gonna like put you out of your comfort zone. Every single project, you're gonna have to be friendly with others. Every single project, you're gonna have to learn a new skill. Even if you don't want to, even if you are a programmer or an artist, you will have to adapt. And that's very important because you see this a lot in life, and there's a lot of people that stop adapting and stop getting out of the comfort zone, and I think that's the issue that I'm gonna talk later why you shouldn't. And I think that's why I'm bringing BBW, because like, it's a course that forces you to really always be out of your comfort zone. And I put three of my I don't think they're my favorite games, but I put my first round against all odds. When we got here, and I was like, great, I need to learn Unity. Okay, that's awesome. How do I learn Unity? Okay, yes, they gave us a little crash course about Unity. I was like, I went home, I researched more about Unity, and then I was like, well, guys, it's our first semester, it's our first project. We're in grad school, we're supposed to be able to do whatever we want. And we're supposed to just like fail and just do things we cannot do in our real day-to-day life. So we proposed a pretty funky game that I'm going to show because I like it. And we had one thing that we all agreed in one thing. And we were like, if we're going to do this game, let's make sure we have a nice story at the beginning. And I carried that along all my projects in BBW. We always put like a nice story to like introduce the game and the why we did the game. And I take this into today. I always ask myself a why. So I'm gonna just show probably the beginning of Against All Odds. You'll probably figure out what is it about. Oh, this does have something.
Almost once every month, a deadly race takes place in the world of the uterus. The prize? Get into the egg, located deep within the ovaries. Sperms not only first have to race with each other, they have to escape from the threatening leukocytes, a powerful kind of cell that kills sperms. And make no mistake, most of them will die. Well, who do we have here? This little guy looks small and weak. He is not going to stand a chance if no one helps him. You are the guardian spirit of this small sperm. Please help him.
So, the game begins. I'm gonna fast forward so we can actually get to the rest of the talk. But you get the idea. You're riding your sperm in VR. Down the uterus. I'll just let it in. Just let you guys enjoy it. To be able to do more than just one level. Come on. We can't just come and do one little level if you're getting to the egg. So we decided to be ambitious and do 2 levels. And then you fight and So after we did that first game, we were like, okay, cool. People took it well. We can do whatever we want. And we were it was a really good introduction because we were we got here and we showed ourselves that we can learn a platform and we could just jump and do anything, right? And then after that, all of us were very every time we did a project, we really want to challenge ourselves. And we then did more and more games that were similar. We've all been in BBW. But one thing I try to always keep is try to do something very, very different. And all my projects were very, very different. And I went from obviously VR. The second one is Kinect game when you put yourself in front and it creates a robot and you need to move pieces around you and take it to your place. So it's all about using your body everywhere. And then when we got to the last one, the last project we did here, we were all of our games have been just one player. Can we make a multiplayer game? But we don't want a 2-player game or a 3-player game. Can we do a 10-player game or a 20-player game? We constrained in and decided to do a 6-player game. And we did. We did a 6-player game that had nothing to do with screens, but more I don't know if you've played the game Joust. But it was a very similar type of game. But all of them, we were we want to make sure we're learning something. It's we already did a VR game. Check. We already did what haven't we done? So we did this huge multiplayer game. And what I learned about that, and I feel everyone should learn, is you always need to keep yourself don't get comfortable when you know something. Just always go and learn something else. I can show videos, but I have a lot of other stuff, so I'll just keep going. Oh, I do have a clicker. Well, outside first semester, right? BBW is great. We learn a lot of stuff, but we didn't come to ETC just for that first semester, right? We came here for the rest of our experience here. And there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of, I think, patterns people do when they come to the ETC. You have the ETCer that comes here and never leaves the ETC and only takes courses here. You have the ETCers that forget about why they're here, about their project, and just go and stay in main campus and forget about the project. And then you have those that decide to do the best of both worlds. And that's who I was. And that's one thing I recommend. I feel like you should definitely take courses here, but you should definitely go to main campus and socialize. Not just because it's main campus, but because you might need a course that's not offered here, that's offered there, that will like tighten your ability or give you a skill that you might use in your project, right? And I think that's very important. So I'm going to talk about one of my projects here, very briefly, and I'm going to talk about it mostly because when I was doing this project, I realized I had to take many courses on main campus to be able to actually bring the technology I needed to this project. And that's something that we need to make sure that if we do go to main campus, we actually go because we're not just going to go in to learn something, but because you're going to bring that knowledge back and help your other peers grow in that scenario. So this was a full semester project, which was really cool because I was interested more in location-based. So I was never like in a pure game. I was more into like, I want to create spaces, create interactive objects. I've always been like, my background is computer vision and AI. So I was always about like putting projectors and cameras and calibrating spaces. So I really wanted to keep doing that here. And we did this project, which was really cool because when we were here, everyone's like, yeah, you can like submit your projects to conferences, or you can write papers. And we decided to do all of it. And it was really cool because this project got submitted and like we actually go to South by Southwest, we went to GDC, it had a lot of press and it was really fun to be like, what you do here, if you actually put your heart to it and really do a good job, it could actually help you in the long term. Like, I landed a job at MagicLeap thanks to like half of this project and half of Maze of Art. I was at GDC and my boss saw it and he was like, oh my God, how long did it take? You were like, oh, it was like a 2-week project. And he was like, we should talk. You should come work for MagicLeap. And it was just because, again, I'm at GDC showing a game because we got in. So it's all about like really put your heart into things. And like, it will pay off, maybe. So I'm gonna show this video. So this project had a challenge, and it was basically, we went to the Children's Museum of Pittsburgh, and they had that installation of puppets, and they were like, basically they told us, we want you to do something with this space. And we were like, okay, great. They're like, what do you want us to do? And they're like, we want you to use the puppets and do something. We don't care what you do, but something. And many people in the team at the beginning had a lot of issues. They were like, oh my God, what do you mean puppets? Do they want us to use the puppets and animate them? And we're like, just simplify the problem. Like, we have puppets, that means we have art assets. How can we use these art assets and create something that we can actually leave as an installation? We went, we researched, and then we did one thing that like taught me a lot, and it was playtest. We went to the museum almost every Saturday with every prototype. Because we were like, yes, paper prototype is great, but we were like, we're not kids. We need to actually go and test. And we just went every Saturday and play test every scenario over and over until we found that good spot of like, this is what kids want. They want to be able to interact with virtual content that is related to what they're seeing in the puppets. So we did. We created every single puppet as 3D, and then we allowed the players to be able to grab objects, throw them around, play music, and then we installed it. And it was a super cool experience because it was like one semester and it was from beginning to end, fully done. We completely finished it. And it was a good way of like showing how like, sometimes I hear like, oh, we don't have enough time. It's like, you never have enough time, right? Time just keeps going, but you actually need to figure out how to squeeze everything in the time frame you have. And it is actually possible. Sorry guys, I'm having technical issues. So outside of what we do, what I was trying to say, like, ETC has a ton of really cool courses, but most of your things you need to be focusing on your project. And sometimes you need to actually learn other stuff to make your project better. And like, the way I took it was my background is computer vision and AI. What courses can I take to like strengthen those abilities and bring it back to my project? Like, I don't need to go to main campus to take courses to learn something that has nothing to do with my project, because like the point I'm here is to create projects and learn how to communicate with people and create meaningful things that I can eventually share. So I did go to main campus and I did 2 projects that like, many people are like, oh, you did that in ETC. I was like, you can do similar projects other places, because like, I'm here because I want to make art and science and combine it and create experiences. That's what I want to do. And I'm doing it in my main project, but there's little things I can only learn with rapid prototyping. So I did 2 projects that are related to the ETC and are related to what I want that's like more like mixed reality scenarios. One was called Lingwar. It's basically, when I was here, Google Glass, it was like hot. And we just decided to do something that was like, you would put Google Glass on and we put like a translator, so you will walk around and you will hear English and it will appear in your little window Spanish words. That way you would like understand the translation. And we had Spanish, English, and I think there was Chinese. I don't know if the Chinese worked well, but I knew the Spanish worked fairly well. So we would walk around campus and talk to people, and we would see on real time like the words just popping up. And it was a way to do rapid prototyping and really trying like mixed reality, really trying what we learned here in our game design, but with students that are completely different, with more like, and it's good because then you get to know how other people work. Because when you go to the field, when you go working, you're not surrounded with people that are like us, fun, and like they want. Sometimes you have an engineer that's just silent and like, or maybe you have someone that's like uptight, and you need to learn how to interact with those type of people. So that's why I recommend going to main campus. The other one is because, again, when you are like creating projects, you really want to like learn as much as you can from others. And at ETC, like when I was here, you know what everyone's good at. So it's really good for you. Like if you want this, you know you go to this person or you go to that person. But when you're in main campus, you don't know. So you're out of your comfort zone. And you will learn that a lot when you're working, that if you have a problem, you need to be able to go to another team and ask a question. And it's very easy to be like, no, I'm just going to stay in my team and ask my team. But in the workforce, you might need to actually go to the person that sits in the second floor of the office and be comfortable being like, hey, so I know you're really good in like head tracking. Can I talk to you? Or hey, I know you're really good at like rigging. Can I talk to you? I've never met you before. And getting out of here gives you that like comfort. And the other project was called Palmistry Ball. I was not going to show this video, but I went talking today to a couple of people, and many are trying to do similar things. It's a projection mapping. You put it under, and there's a calibration of like leap motion and a projector, and you calibrate it and you play a game in your hand. So I'm just going to show it because I talked about it so much in projects earlier that I feel like you guys should probably see it. So this was really possible because I was able to be with a bunch of other computer vision people that helped me do this game in like 2 weeks, because I was surrounded by people that knew what they were doing, knew a lot about like CV, and it was really easy to just go to them and be like, I need to calibrate this, and you just get quick and fast answers. So it was just like a little game. You put your hand under, a ball falls, and then you just have to take the ball to where the white finger is. So before we continue to, well, actually probably many of you are here to hear is what I'm doing now. It's more like, when you're here, some key points I want you to remember before you leave the ETC It's just like, you should always be challenging your mind. If you feel too comfortable somewhere, then it's time to like learn something new. You should always explore new interests because you never know where you're gonna find something that you might like be like, oh my God, that's amazing. So like again, never feel like if you feel too comfortable, you should always change. And be a good team player. Like you have no idea how like you leave this place and this people, and I'm sure you've heard it by your professors and by many people, like, oh, like when you leave the ATC, your alumni and your students are the ones that are gonna help you. And it is 100% true. If you're that person in the class that everyone doesn't like because you don't want to work with everyone or because you're just like off in the main campus and not really paying attention to your project, it does reflect. And when you're out in the field, you'll meet a ton of ETCers, and what's the big issue with humans is that we talk a lot. And you don't want to be that person, right? It's better to be the person that is just like working hard even though it's always failing, because that's why we're here, so it's okay, than be the person that's getting straight A's in main campus, but nobody here cares about you. So like really be an ETCer and like stay focused. Okay, real life. Enough about ETC and stuff. Many times people get like, when you're applying to jobs and you're searching and you're like, oh, I really need to get a job. Maybe you need a visa. Maybe you just need to pay a loan. It's really easy to get sucked into like any job will be okay. And I was like, I didn't come to the ETC. I didn't come to a grad program just to leave it and not continue doing what I was doing, right? Of course, I applied everywhere and I was trying, but I was like, I'm not going to take a job that is not going to keep my path of being a creator. And even until today, I still get, like, a lot of my friends bug me because I turned away. I got a job offer from Google, and I turned it away because they were like, yeah, you're just going to be a software engineer. And I'm like, in what team? Like, we don't know. And I was like, well, I don't want to take a job offer and then end up just solving Gmail bugs. I would die. I'll probably be depressed and, like, kill myself. Probably not kill myself, but I was like, I cannot. Like, there's like no way. I just have done all this work this last 2 years of not sleeping or anything for you to tell me that you don't know what type of job I'm going to get. That's not right. There has to be another way. And I ended up actually, my first job out of college was not MagicLeap. I ended up doing a VR lab at Yahoo, which many people were like, what? Yahoo had a VR? I'm like, yeah. They started a little lab, and they were just trying to do experiments, which I was like, that's amazing. I like experiments. And they were like, if for some reason VR hits, we need to be ready for it because we're another tech giant and we have nothing in VR, and we want to make sure our products are ready. Can you do streaming and encoding a video for VR? I'm like, I have no idea how to do any of that, but I know VR. Sure, I'll take it. That's enough for me. One thing that I know, two that I don't. And it was great. I learned a ton about encoding and video, but I always felt comfortable because I was like, I know VR, so at least there's something there. And I learned a lot. And after a while there, I went to GDC, I presented again a couple of games. One was Maze of Heart, and that's where I had landed in MagicLeap. I've been in MagicLeap now 4 years. Yeah, 4 years. And when I arrived, they told me before I got the job offer, they were like, so you have a ton of stuff that's you do a lot of art installations and you do a lot of kind of mixed reality. Do you want to come work for MagicLeap? I'm like, well, what is MagicLeap? You have a website and a nice video of a whale coming out, and that's about it. You have a ton of money, but what is MagicLeap? And they're like, well, we can't really tell you. We can't really show you either. But if you want to come and do cool prototypes similar to what you're doing with us, you should come. And I was like, well, that sounds interesting. That sounds fun. That sounds like a very big risk, but a fun risk. I was like, I'll go back to doing experiments. I knew 2 ETCers that were already there, and they were talking really highly about it. So I was like, cool. A couple of alumni, they did not graduate with me. They were they were 1 and 2 years above me. They were like, yeah, it's super cool. I'm like, fine. I'll leave and come to MagicLeap. And it was amazing. Absolutely. I'll talk about that later. It was absolutely amazing. As soon as I saw it, it blew my mind. And even when I started MagicLeap, this was not even a device. We had this huge mask that was 3 times this size. And it still blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, this is I've been doing since undergrad projection mapping and tracking and doing mixed reality, but for spaces. And with this device, we can actually start doing mixed reality as a consumer. Like, more people can be developing. And I was just like, this is exactly where I want to be, and that's probably why I've been there. But before we talk about mixed reality and MagicLeap, so probably, I'm pretty sure many of you have used MagicLeap, if not have seen it. I know they just told me it's a BBW platform. That's awesome. But there's a ton of like R's around the industry, and I'm sure you all know about them because you're all at DTC, but I just want to clarify a little bit. So we all know VR is you're in a virtual world, completely encapsulated. There's a level designer that's designing the level for you, so you know what you're doing, or someone knows what you're doing. Then there's AR, which means you're just placing content in front of the user. The content has no idea about you, but you know everything about that content. And then we come to mixed reality. That's what MagicLeap does. And that's completely different, because in mixed reality, you have virtual content that knows about you. And you know about them. And that's a very tricky thing. Like, if you put a virtual pet here, let's say in AR, it might not know that there's a wall, there's a chair, and there's a bunch of students there, or people there. It might just be like, okay, I'm just going to run in circles because that's what the code says. But if you're in mixed reality, you can start unleashing this functionality. You can start being like, okay, there's a wall there, there's chairs, and then you can really start creating more interesting applications. But with that, a lot of things come through. With that comes a lot of like, well, if I put stuff in my environment, where's the level design, right? If I decide to play a game and like I design that there's a sofa and somebody loads it up in a place that there's no sofa but chairs, what happens? So there's a lot of what ifs in the design world. And what we've learned in MagicLeap by prototyping is just to forget everything you know, which sounds like completely like outrageous. Like, I just went to school for 2 years, and now you're telling me that if I want to do mixed reality, I need to forget everything I know? It's like, yeah, basically. You don't need to forget how to prototype. You don't need to forget how to create, but you need to start thinking very, very differently on how you're doing this, because now everything is completely different. Rules don't apply. Like, not the same rules apply. And I'll talk about it more later, but I just want to like leave that thought in your head for now. And yeah, so as you can see in this image, I don't know if you guys played the game Create. That's just a concept art from this game. But you can start really understanding what is around. I think that's what makes mixed reality really magical. And I'm a senior interactive engineer, so before I keep going down, many people are always like, what exactly does that mean? So I'm just gonna like break it down before I keep going, because I'm gonna get into like some funky stuff later, so I just want to clarify. So at MagicLeap, an interactive engineer, and we have actually a team with a bunch of ETCers that are doing it, is basically what we do here at ETC. We think of an idea, we prototype it, and we redo it all over again. We really just try to test and push the boundaries of mixed reality as much as we can, and then we iterate again. So that's what we do. We try to like really be like, how can we combine, it could be other hardware or other designs, and just really push mixed reality, because mixed reality is very new. Like, it's not like you come into a game studio that they publish 20 games and they tell you what you want to do. Like I said earlier, you have to forget everything you know. And the only way to relearn what you don't know is just actually putting a ton of people to like test this. Is it better to have gestures? Is it better to have a totem? Do you actually care the precision of the gestures maybe? Do you care about 2 fingers? Do you care about all the fingers? Do you care about like to know if that's a chair or a seatable place, or just like what is all these ifs that we don't know? We need to be able to answer it, so when consumers play it or when developers have access to our APIs, we've already probably answered half of the questions they have somehow. And as I said earlier, there's actually a ton of ETCers. I want to shout out to all these ETCers that are MagicLeap, because there's this open source project called Magic Kit. You can download it from our MagicLeap website, creator portal, and it's mostly done by ETCers. And it's basically that. There's a bunch of prototypes done in Unity, some in Unreal, which is just like a startup, like how to do meshing, how to do this, how to do the other thing. And it's just starter Unity projects that you can like download, play them, or use them as a starter kit, right? And it's basically a bunch of Magic Leapers. So I want to give a shout out to them. If you have never seen Magic Kit and you're working with MagicLeap, I should totally recommend. It's a great resource to start from. It has a demo for everything. It's pretty awesome. But I get uncomfortable. I get really just bored very quick. I need to really poke my brain and like get interested in new things, because it's very common for people to like start not knowing something, then knowing something, and then becoming comfortable. And I feel like when you're in the comfort zone part, it's fine. You can stay there for a while, and it's okay. You can like solve problems. But I feel you should always be out of your comfort zone. You should always be learning and challenging yourself. So after a couple of years at MagicLeap, I was a senior interactive engineer. I was doing all these prototypes. I was leading a team, doing this. But I was like, okay, I'm not challenging my brain anymore. I'm just like doing this over and over, which is great. I love it. But I need that learning aspect again. I need to learn something new. So I went and I was like, well, my background isn't AI. What can I do to like go back the curve into like a learning mode? So I did a Swift and I changed to deep learning. And I decided to go to the deep learning team because I was like, well, there's a bunch of PhD guys doing a lot of really cool stuff that have no idea how to bring it to product. I know how to bring it to product. I know how to do prototypes. I have no idea how to like bring this deep nets into an actual device, but I know we need that, right? Like there's papers that are like, you read research papers that it's like face detection, emotion detection. There's papers that are like pixel to pixel, like computer detection, phone detection, everything. And you're like, well, that's what I need. I want an API that could say, give me a chair. I want an API that says, where is my phone? I want to be able to look at that in mixed reality. I want to be able to have an API that tells me, what is this room? Is this my house? All these questions that start appearing in mixed reality. I was like, I want to have an API that does that. Or like a form of answering these questions. And there's so much research doing this. How can we bring it in? So I moved to the team to start exploring that. And it's been really cool because I feel like that's where mixed reality is going to go. So when we talk about mixed reality, I told you, you need to forget about everything because there's no level design. The most crucial thing in mixed reality is knowing your environment. And that's one of the biggest fields that we study at MagicLeap and then many other people are studying. Is like, how do you actually know your environments, right? Because you need to understand if you're placing a virtual character in the floor, you want to make sure it can like actually go from point A to point B, avoiding real obstacles. Or if I move a chair, can it avoid the chair? And then you can actually start like unleashing all these other potential gameplay mechanics, experience mechanics. Like if you go to the supermarket, if you're not a gamer, you can be like, where is, I don't know, the eggs? And it could just show you a path because it understands the environment. And we also want AI characters, virtual characters. I don't know if you're familiarized with Micah. Micah is one of the MagicLeap AI characters that we're doing. And she's an assistant. We're basically creating this virtual companion that's going to help you around. She is not an Alexa. You cannot ask Micah, hey, Micah, turn the music on. She'll probably be like, no. She's more like a companion that will like try to help you around. And we're trying to do this because we're very mindful of like AI is going to become extremely powerful in the future. And we don't want to have AI that you can just like control everything for you. We need to be able to figure out a nice balance of like why AI is good and not just how can AI make me lazy. So this is one of the projects that we're doing. And another project we're doing in MagicLeap is called the Magicverse. I'm not sure if you've heard about it. So when mixed reality starts kicking in, there's not only MagicLeap. There's ARKit, there's ARCore, there's sorts of HoloLens, and there's numerous more products that are coming out. But for mixed reality to be able to be a thing, just like why phone apps are cool, is that we can all interact together. If I have a MagicLeap, if you have a phone, if you have a HoloLens, if we could all wear these things and be in the same space and playing the same environments, is when mixed reality actually can become a thing. And that's what we call the Magicverse. It's a place where you actually augment where the apps live in relation to where you are. And there's a lot of other like crazy stuff happening in that realm, but I just wanted to give you a taste of like, we're not just creating hardware to make games. We're not just like creating little platforms, we're actually thinking about like how can MagicLeap and how can everything actually really like help in the future. Like even if it's not MagicLeap, but any other device, how can AI bring the future to mixed reality, and how can other platforms add it as well? So this is very, very new to MagicLeap, and it's actually, you should have your eyes open because a lot of cool stuff is going to come that's going to help any person using MagicLeap develop really interesting things. So with that said, my key points again, challenge yourself. Really, every time you feel comfortable, you should always try to learn something, because the more you learn, the easier it is in your career. The more you learn, the easier you can like path away from one place to another. People, you get to meet more people, and you start becoming more valuable in the company and in the field. Network and keep in touch. There's a lot of alumni out there, and there's a lot of people that like, the more you know and the more you realize it, you can really learn a lot, get a new job, whatever you need, but just don't forget to like network and keep in touch. I'm pretty sure you've heard this a billion times, but it's very important. Like, it's very important. And like, yeah, never stop learning. Like, it's very, like, I know so many ETCers that are just like, yeah, we just stopped. And then 5 years later, they're like, I'm still in the same spot. It's like, well, have you done anything to change? It's like, no. It's like, remember BBW? Every project was different, and that's why you succeeded, because you're always challenging yourself. Like, don't get comfortable, because if you get comfortable, the world keeps moving, and things will just, you will be stayed behind. And more in the world of tech. So always just make sure if you feel too comfortable, that means it's time for you to go get a new book, or time to like learn something new. And that's all I have for you guys. Now I am open for questions. If anyone wants to.